Hey everyone, this is Kelvin. I'm talking with Michael Freiberger out of the Seattle area, and Michael's got a lot going on with different bands and a record label and running a venue in the Seattle area. Thanks for talking with me, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the show, and it's a privilege to be here talking with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad we can, just kind of talk about, all the stuff you've been involved in out there in the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, just a little bit about yourself, kind of like, where you're from and kind of where you grew up and how you end up in Seattle.
Well, I am originally from Fairbanks, Alaska, the interior part of Alaska, the cold part, and far away from the water. It was an experience. So to give you an idea, so Fairbanks is landlocked. So it's there's nothing in every direction. The nearest city is about 500 miles away. This gets ungodly cold. Like it gets as cold as I think 64 below zero is probably as cold as I felt in the winter there. And it's just pitch black, and it's just all sorts of brutal. It's a really, really tough place to grow up. There's a reason why, in a state that's 3 times the size of Texas, we have less than 1 million people living there. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to live in Fairbanks. But I'm also really blessed and feel privileged that I was able to grow up there. And, I was able to grow up with my native family, and my grandma, she was a very, very well-known native. She and her husband, even though he passed away before I died, they were both famous dog mushers. So she won the first 2 or 3 North American races, and Andrew won a bunch of them as well. And then, they have Cochrane Memorial. Cochrane was my grandma's last name. They have a Cochrane Memorial dog sledding races. And she was just such a badass. I think about her every single day. My grandma, she was such an amazing person. Her sense of community, her sense of loving, her sense of trying to just get everyone to, get along. Alaska was purchased in the 50s. You know what I mean? She was put into residential schools, and she would be beaten if she spoke her native language and all these things. And yet she came out of that without a hurt heart. She still wanted to teach everyone native ways, she would go to schools and she would teach all the kids the native games and all the things from the past. And, everyone commonly knew her as Grandma Effie, that's just what she went by. And just again, community in her sense of keeping the, just native traditions alive and everything through everything that Alaska's, there isn't one tribe of native people that have it easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've all had it pretty rough. And so it's just, I don't know, to see her go through that and keep her spirits high and everything was just a really amazing thing to grow up with. And, I'm really blessed to have had that. I don't think I would be the person I am today without her helping.
Awesome.
With that bringing. And, that leads into the brutality of metal. Now, what comes with growing up in a frozen place that no one's around, that's pitch black, is from a young age, I connected to heavy metal. Most people, you usually figure it out when you're pretty young. You hear Sepultura or Metallica or whatever band you first hear, and then it's just game over. It's okay, I need to listen to something else. I need to find more. I got this hair. I just want to shake it around and headbang, Sorry, I got.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just asking about how you grew up out in Alaska and
back there,
the Athabascan area.
Grandma talking about metal. Yeah, so Athabascan people, because we were upriver. Now Fairbanks is off a river, and so is Tanana, where our native village was. Now we were all fishermen. A lot of times the salmon, they're a little bit more beat up. So the type of food that we grew up on was definitely more. We'd can and jar up salmon, and we'd smoke strips. There's always a little bit more of what you could keep over the winter. I was really happy to learn how to do it with my grandma again. And she passed away. I was kind of destroyed and over Alaska. Just wanted to get out of there. But yeah, growing up in Alaska is rough. And again, the fact that there's no one in every direction, growing up on the res, I know you know what that's like to just have only you and the people around. It always causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of issues, but also through that, it creates a lot of amazing artists, man. Like some of the most amazing, cool people that I've ever met. And I'm still friends with everyone who was able to leave. Because it's really hard to make something of yourself in a place where no one can get to. Mm-hmm. So those who make music, there's amazing creative people who are all from there. But, it's unless you're able to get out of there, you just kind of stay stuck. Which again, I'm sure you can relate to being on the res. It's really hard to do a lot. It's a little bit easier, I guess, now with the internet and everyone's vastness, openness, but it's unless you're able to get involved with the things, it could be a little bit rough.
A lot of time.
Which is why I moved. Yeah, exactly. Which is why I moved to the city. I worked at a Denny's. I really hard. I worked a lot of graveyards. The late night shift at a Denny's in Alaska was always interesting. I guess the late night shift at any Denny's is probably interesting. Ask any line cook there, and I'm sure they have 100 stories to tell.
Yeah. What did you move to the Seattle area?
Let's see, it was about 2004, so it was about 18 years ago. I was around 18, so it was about half my life ago. I moved here to Seattle, and it's even though it's 2,800 miles away or whatever, it's the closest big city to come to. So that's kind of where most people come to. So I was able to have a few friends here, and made it a little bit easier to transition. Again, moving from a small town to a city can be a bit intimidating, especially a city like Seattle, man. It's a small city, but holy fuck, has it always been so rich in creativity, talent, everything. When you first come here and you see the local bands and you're like, these are the fucking local bands. These guys are every band is just on real good. It was a bit intimidating to come here from that, even though I'd been playing music for quite a long time. I started around 1997 playing shows and such. And, it's when we were kids, we had the tribal hall, we had the dog mushers hall, the Eagles and Elks lodges. That's pretty much it. And we would just make our own scene. It'd be Christian punk bands playing with our stupid metal bands and hippie jam bands, bluegrass and stuff like that is huge back home. There's a certain type of people in Alaska and they just love it there. They're I don't ever want to have the internet or city life. That ain't for me, and that's okay. It's if that's how you actually want to live, it's easy to do there. It's just that a lot of people don't think they want to live that way or whatever until they get in it. And, the isolation and everything is real, especially come wintertime, man. It's a bit rough, but again, it takes a certain type of person,
Yeah. No, it's pretty common. Yeah. Too, especially with me, I had, leave around here just to go to school and try to, make something of myself. But I always carried the music I listened to with me, I was always kind of a quiet dude, introverted, but I always held the music I listened to pretty close just to kind of get me through those transitions, awkward transitions. Yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, that's kind of how people around here are. Got to leave the quiet area to try to make something of yourself. And you being from the Athabascan and I'm in the Navajo area, there's a pretty close connection there, especially with the language. I Navajo and Apache kind of break off of Athabascan. So
totally, which is cool. I always thought that was so weird when I started diving into more of the linguisticness of the origins, I guess, of a lot of the languages, because I was trying to describe to someone how in Alaska there was 15 or 16 different languages, And about maybe 20 years or so ago, they all decided to kind of switch to like one to try to preserve it. I mean, which was cool because they were teaching them in schools and stuff. Like, non-native people were learning it, like white folk and stuff, which was really cool. I think that's awesome. It helps keep the language alive. But sadly, like our regional one was one that's losing. So it's like our language has like 100 people left who could like fluently speak it or something. But it's cool. I've always, my grandma taught me lots of our language when I was younger. It's like I can't speak it fluently or anything by any means, but I've always kept certain words like etagila, which I used to have lots of nightmares when I was younger, and that just means like how scary, roughly translated. But it's like that would always associated with my grandma, like just certain words that just kind of like I just like to keep into my vocabulary. Yeah, can you speak any Dina or Navajo at all?
A little, like kind of like the basic stuff, like hello, goodbye, like yate, gone, and like the real basic introductory level. But I'm not fluent. I'd like to be. I need to work on that, but it's just I don't know. Maybe I should start a Navajo learning podcast. I don't know. But yeah, it's just something that you gotta like really kind of like use every day.
Exactly. It's just something, and that's the thing with a lot of those languages is, most all people these days kind of speak English. So it's like those take, a back seat, and with, newer generations not picking them up or whatever, they can tend to dwindle into nothing. But the cool thing about the younger generations is lots of native youth are really passionate about keeping the spirit alive, just like with the resurgence of all this native metal that's been happening lately, it's just amazing. You know what I mean? It just gives me hope for the future. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know. I'm really happy with what feels like a native uprising, and not just the music, but just across the board, politics, everything. Like it's really a beautiful thing to see, and I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons I started doing this too. Is just I listen to a lot of like podcasts, especially like with metal artists, and I didn't hear a whole lot from like the native bands, especially around here. So then, kind of one by one, I just kind of started reaching out, and the first person I talked to, it was Rory James. He's the drummer of Mutilated Tyrant. They're like the black metal band
here
in the Navajo Nation. Yeah. And come to everyone was really cool, and were happy to talk with me. But that's one thing I really want to do too. Just try to kind of like get a historical, like I guess like documentation of like the bands, and just like where they're at, and just to
totally.
To
and I mean, that's another thing I was going to comment on is from one of your other podcasts, you were talking about how you go on to like what's that neckbeard site, Encyclopedia Metallum, so you go on there and submit all these bands. Like when I first heard you say that, I was like, fuck, that is so hard to do because they make it basically impossible to do stuff. So like the fact that you're going out there and doing that for bands that you're like not even in or representing is so fucking cool, man. Like I love that you're doing that. Like it takes a village. It takes everyone kind of promoting this stuff, spreading the love to really get out there, especially since like, a lot of the res metal bands are all stuck on the res. It's like the only way they're really going to get out there is by people promoting, people getting the name out there. It's like I think it's really cool what you're doing.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, my dream is to like see one of the bands around here get on like a reputable like metal label. That'd be really cool to see. That's pretty close. I can feel it, and it's almost there.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do with my label. I mean, I don't have a ton of money, but right now, I mean, it's like I've got a good amount to start with the bands I have. When I started, it was mainly the bands that I grew up with and playing with here in Seattle. But part of my vision with the label was branching out and giving support to native artists. You know what I mean? It's like I kind of made that a staple. I was like, if you don't live in Seattle and you're not native, don't send me your submissions. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of one of those things. Like I really, really want to help bring light to Native and Indigenous bands. You know what I mean? It just, yeah, it's our time to rise.
Yeah.
And
When,
so,
when,
and
oh, sorry.
sorry, go on.
When did you, was it, kind of like during the pandemic, I understand? Like, or how did
Yeah,
the
so we just,
label start?
the label started because of the pandemic. So as you were saying earlier, I you know, run a venue. I'm a bartender manager. I have my band, which I've always kind of been a manager for, and we tour and do stuff. So I was really quite busy and never really thought I could do something like this, even though I had always wanted to. I guess didn't have the money or didn't have the time, you know. And so like the pandemic hit, and you know, after a while, you know, in the beginning, I just kind of like played World of Warcraft and smoked a lot of weed or whatever. You know what I mean? I was just like, all right, like get a little downtime, which I never have. Like I'm gonna like play video games and shit, which I've never had time to do, you know, in a long time. And so after a little bit, it was just like, well, this is kind of like lost its fun or whatever. Like I kind of needed something to do, and like our band Deathcave just had our full length come out, which we were shopping around to labels, and then the pandemic hit, and I was just like, well, fuck, trying to get a label to support a band that's newer when there's a pandemic just seemed kind of impossible. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to put this out. You know, our first EP I put out under Satanic Royalty as well, which was at the time it was the name of my DJ night. So I had like a little artwork for it already. So I was just like, you know, I was like, I'm just going to use that as like a fake label. So I put our tape out that way. And then I was like, ah, fuck, I'm going to continue using this fake label and put out our full length. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, that was all happening, and just, you know, I had really good PR. And then, so Eris, which is a local band, friends, you know, we used to share jam space together, hit me up asking about like if they know any labels, helping, whatever. And then Sandwriter, who's an, you know, incredibly well-known band, and just, you know, they were akimbo beforehand, and they've just been underground legends for a long time, just touring nonstop, playing, you know, they're a little bit more like grunge or like heavy rock, like noise rock stuff, metal, but it's really fucking good. It's really catchy. It's really loud. It's really fun. They were looking for someone, which was a surprise to me, just because, again, they're popular, you know. And then Old Iron also hit me up, and I was just like, fuck, man, 3 amazing bands have hit me up. Like, maybe I should just figure it out. So I put out like a feeler on Facebook. And, you know, again, I've been throwing shows, promoting shows, booking tours and stuff for years and years. So, and, you know, I work hard and I care about my community, you know, like the community is so important to me, like so important to me. And I think a lot of that came from growing up with my grandma, who, you know, you got to take care of your people, you know. It's like if everyone's thriving, everyone's going to do better, you know. It's like, it's not a, you know, it's just dog eat dog world out there, you know. It's like, especially within people that you respect and care about, and, you know, it's just, you're supposed to grow as a team. But I just think through people, like seeing everything I've done over the years, you know, I put out feelers and I was able to get funding to start the label. And so I decided to start the label for real. I signed all those bands, all 4 of those bands. And then I got Is Me, which was a newer atmospheric black metal band that I didn't even know them. Like they were just random kids from out of town, like Stanwood, which is like north. But man, they just wrote such good music, and like in talking to them, you know, I really could tell that they were like really hardworking, really just passionate, like good people, which is also an important thing, you know. No jerks allowed. And then Dark Meditation, which was also a newer band, but they were a bunch of old friends, you know. We've been playing music together forever. I know how hard of workers they are, you know. The bass player was in RAP, and he toured a bunch with them, and like everyone else was in, you know, just awesome bands. Like they're really talented people, and I heard their demo and it's just like, let me help you bid out the rest, you know. And so I got my initial 6, you know, there's to start, you know, and then that was kind of like everything I had going on. And that was a lot of work, you know, just to get all that going while focusing on my band, you know, booking tours. And then, you know, the pandemic, when it was picking up, you know, the bar was starting to pick up, and now the venue's been popping off for a while. Like, it's kind of like an indoor outdoor venue. So get a little bit of an open air feel. Fits 150 people, which is like kind of that ideal, you know, rising underground size where you could actually get decent shows where everyone makes decent money, but it fucking feels right, you know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so another part of the label is every year-ish, I'll be doing a cover album, and I'll be donating all the proceeds of all the album to alcohol and drug wellness centers for different Native tribes. Like, I'm starting with my own. My mom, when I was younger, worked at the Fairbanks Native Association, and they have a alcohol and drug wellness center that has changed lives for many, many Native families for the better. Because, as you know, when some people just get too addicted to that sauce, it can really tear families apart. You know what I mean? Sauce and drugs, like, and you know, again, I feel like the more Native people are empowered to do good and, you know, don't trip on their own feet, the more, you know, just the better everything will be for us as a people in the future, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that you're doing
So, yeah, so our first one is going to be His Hero's Gone, and that's actually announcing with pre-orders in like a week.
Mhm.
So basically, I'll be doing that, and then when I launch those, I'm also going to just, you know, it's going to be like a pay whatever you want, so people can pay more or just get it for whatever they want to donate. And then that just, again, try to keep that as like an ongoing kind of thing, to where luckily Bandcamp, you know, makes it to where you can just set up the price where people can pay what they want or tip more or whatever. So they'll make it really easy, I feel, for those who actually want to support alcohol, drug wellness centers, you know, especially for Native people. Like, and that's kind of where I want to go next, is, you know, somewhere in the Navajo. I spent, you know, a lot of time. My grandma was really close with a lot. You know, we'd go to the Gathering of the Nations powwow, and like we'd go visit different reservations, and like, you know, just to get to know the people. You know, my grandma was always super hands on. You know, and she did that with more than just other Native tribes. You know, she went to like, you know, the Philippines and like Taiwan and like all these different places, and, you know, found the indigenous people and would like learn. Just what she would constantly do, you know, like wanted to see the world, wanted to know everything, but still to care about the community and just everything so much, you know. So I'm just trying to keep that spirit alive a bit, you know.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you're doing that.
So yeah,
with
that's
your
kind
label.
of that. Yeah, the idea for the label, again, I'm still starting small, but this is something I'm doing forever, and I'm definitely trying to grow it, you know. And I want to reach out to the Native bands, everyone, you know. It's like, even if I can't do much, I could probably do something, and if not, I could help distro, and you know what I mean. It's like, I want people to feel comfortable reaching out to me, you know. It's like, I'm not. And even if it's a no, I'll be a friendly no, and I'll get back to you or whatever. You know what I mean? I want people to know that, you know, don't feel shy about saying hello.
Especially when you have the venue and, you know, people in that area to.
And I've got an amazing PR, and I've got a great distro for the label too. You know, it's like all my records and stuff are being put into the independent record stores all over the United States, you know, Mexico and Europe and stuff. It's like, just that exposure for local people to find things is huge. You know what I mean? It's like, I know I love to shop at my local record stores, and I love stumbling upon new finds. You know, it's just how it is. It's like, the only way for that to happen is by getting those physical copies into those stores, you know? So it's like, so I do have a means to help out. And, you know, again, I really want to kind of help raise the voice of Indigenous artists out there.
Yeah. Kind of like how I find out about your work with Satanic Royalty was the artwork of Satanic Royalty. That just blew me away. I think it's the decolonizer artwork with the the Native guy scalping the like pioneer looking guy. Yeah, that was sick. Like, how do you get your artwork, or who does your artwork?
Well, so that was another thing I wanted. You know, I love designing cool merch stuff. It's always been a big, and I've got a million really, really talented artist friends. And so I've kind of just reached out when I was starting this to like several different, like most of them are tattoo artists, but like the one who did the decolonizer, Matt Steicher, was, he's just an artist. So with the decolonizer design, that was something I definitely wanted to bring to life with that one. It was, again, like an indigenous man scalping dude, the likeness of General George Armstrong Custer, which, he killed 1,000 Indians, and he's not a very popular person amongst most native people, so I was just like, I wanted the likeness of him, but it just turned out perfect. You know what I mean? And the artwork was amazing. I love designing merch. I wanted to do another one where I wanted the main character to be an indigenous man, the likeness, like Conan the Barbarian, but as an indigenous person chopping a dude in half. I had Tim Lehigh, who's a very well-known tattoo artist, do that one for me. I was really hyped on that. And again, most of the people I reach out to are friends, like all metalheads. All these artists, pretty great to start. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted I wanted to design a bunch of shirts, and I did. And I wanted to get these bands, and I did. And now I want to bring on, other native bands or indigenous bands. I want to say indigenous because I want to include all indigenous peoples, not just Native Americans, you know what I mean? Like First Nations, fucking down south Mexicans, all indigenous individuals are welcome, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Borders are stupid and not real.
Yeah, that's cool.
Something made up.
Yeah, I really look forward to seeing more like indigenous bands coming out through Satanic Royalty.
Yeah, that's the plan. I started with the first bands we had. Like I said, they're all pretty much just Seattle locals. But the idea and my plan is to pretty much only bring on indigenous artists that I really love. And I've reached out to a couple that you've already interviewed, and we might be seeing some things in the future. You know what I mean? Everything takes a little while to get it rolling and figuring out, but I'm trying to do the work, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, looking forward to it. And then I want to touch on your own band, Deathcave. You guys just put out an EP a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. 420, we released our second EP, just titled 2, which is 22 minutes, 2 songs.
Yeah. I got a chance to listen to it. I got the digital download, but yeah, it's awesome. I love that. The track Birch Trees Are Bone. I mean, that's the main one, right? And then the second one's the cover.
Yeah, Black Sabbath cover, the Writ, which they kind of tied together. So a funny story. So I was going through a breakup, me and my long time partner during the pandemic. Like a lot of people kind of had the time to realize that maybe we shouldn't be together. You know what I mean? Just like one of those amicable split ups because we were spent so much time together. We were like, maybe this isn't right, But I had the labels starting, everything was going on, and including the breakup. So I just went out to the woods with a friend. And when I go through big life changes, I like to kind of enter the spirit world to really kind of help see things a little more clear, or, kind of like cast away all my egos, everything, strip myself naked, and kind of reevaluate life or whatever. So I went out to the woods with a buddy, and, I ate about a half ounce of mushrooms, and I took about 6 hits of acid, and just stared at the fire, listened to a lot of Black Sabbath, started going through my mind, started going crazy. And then once I entered fractal vision, I was just staring across the river at these birch trees. And I just kind of got fixated and kept repeating the words, birch trees are bones. It's just kind of dwelling on the fact that just how or talking about how they're kind of like memories or forgotten time, just trying to put this into words. It was a way I was trying to represent how it represents death, even though there's lots of life around. there's lots of new growth, there's lots of other things, you know. I was trying to think of the birch trees as a reminders of everything that's lost or everything that's been gone in the past. And a lot of my songs, I really love to use kind of nature and as analogies for like the real struggles of real life, or the things we go through or experience, you know, especially when it comes to pain, sorrow, loss, all those things. Like, I feel like you could almost tie all these emotions into things that happen naturally in nature, you know, the changing of seasons, all these things like that, you know. That way you kind of like tell more personal, more deeper stories, but not have them actually be personal or deep, because you're, you know, using metaphors and analogies to kind of explain your story. But yeah, I was going through a lot of heartache and heartbreak and change and rebirth and, you know, new starts and all that as I was writing that. And so that was on 420. Actually, I went out and did that, and then we came back, and, you know, I kind of had the idea in my head because I couldn't let go of the line "birch trees are bones," and kind of had an idea. And then me and Tony, our guitar player, just kind of started working on it. And, you know, I really love this progression. Like with that, every time we kind of work on new music, we kind of change our sound a little bit, which I think all bands should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly growing, we're constantly changing, adapting, you know what I mean? It's like trying to create the same thing, it's going to get stale, it's going to get old, like, which is cool, because we're just working on our new album now. You know, I just got done with practice, and it's a little bit more death metal, this the newer songs we're working on.
Nice.
I'm really liking it. It's sounding really fun. They're a little bit shorter too, you know. It's like, you know, it's the first album we had like a 10.5 minute long song, the second one had an 11 or 12 minute, and the songs like that. It's like, all right, maybe we can try to write shorter songs, you know, 5 or 6 minute long songs, like try to get good at it, maybe leave one long one in there again. But it's fun, you know. It's really cool to see this new direction we're kind of headed in.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
yeah, I'm really excited for the band. I really love this band. You know, our 3-piece, we work on everything together, we write together, we even work on the lyrics together, even though, you know, I'm probably the main songwriter lyrically. I love having them with me. You know, we bounce ideas off each other, you know. And then like one thing for me that can be kind of challenging is when I'm trying to come up with stuff, when I come up with a pattern, it's really hard to kind of get that pattern out of my head. So I love working with other people who kind of like take the same words and like think of a different pattern. It's like, oh, cool. Like I love having that idea. Or like, just when you're stuck and can't figure out a word or how to like kind of place this thing, you know, I just love having the think take aspect of like just working with someone else. And, you know, it's kind of like that with Tony and his guitar playing too, you know. I mean, he's phenomenal guitar player. So like when we're writing, a lot of the ideas kind of come from his thought process, but we all work together at kind of forming the songs. And, you know, I really love how that last EP came out. I'm really hyped on the new songs we're writing. You know, we got some fun things coming up too. Playing a couple shows in July, then we'll be heading back out on tour in September.
Nice.
We were in New Mexico in December, but we won't make it quite that far on this tour. We're going to make it as far as Arizona, then we're going to cut up and
nice.
kind of head towards Nevada after that, which is a bummer, because it'd be nice to meet you, get you on the list and bring you in.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, man.
I love the Four Corners area, like
Yeah.
a lot. Like I spent a lot of when we were younger, my mom went to school for a little bit in Durango, which is like right near everything. So when we were there, I got to experience like not so much Utah, but like a lot of Colorado, and then tons of Arizona and New Mexico, which is just, I love those two states, even though they're really hot and really cold, depending on when you're there. Like on that tour in December, our coldest day was Albuquerque. It was freezing when we were there. Holy smoke. But yeah, I don't know. So there's something quite magic about that Four Corners area. It's got like every kind of, like, it's weird, you know. You'll drive from see the desert, you'll see all, cactuses into the mountains, you'll see like, right next to big, beautiful lakes and waterfalls. It's like you got a little bit of almost everything in that area
Yeah.
besides ocean.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, Four Corners. I mean, I'm right in between like Albuquerque and Phoenix. So anytime you're hitting, like if you're in the Phoenix area, yeah, I'd for sure make that drive out
Oh,
there.
sweet. Yeah. We're going to be playing with our friends Yatra they're from Baltimore area on Prosthetic Records. They're
Oh, nice.
really cool band as well. Pretty hyped to hit the road with those guys.
Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, and I'm just excited to tour a lot, man. That tour in December was everything. Like, everyone in our band, I think we all have ADHD and depression and anxiety and like, so the Holy Trinity, I like to call it. But so the depression can be, or the pandemic was pretty hard on a lot of us. There's a lot of time we didn't spend any time writing music at all. We were just trying to get by, just doing, you know what I mean? It's like, even though we're able to work on a lot of cool things, it's like, you take away everything that was bringing us joy in this world, and it could just naturally get pretty dark. You know what I mean? So it was like when we were out on that tour, and it was right before Omicron hit. Like every show was amazing. Like every like great fan base. Every band was bringing it. Like it was just really special. And then our friends, Ugly, they played 3 shows in New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado with us. They were just so good. They're from Prescott,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah. Prescott, if you're local, but yeah, Prescott. I always called it Prescott when I was small. Like Prescott's for like the non-locals.
Yeah, I know. I called it Prescott. I was just like, that's a funny name. Like you just can't help but think of like, like preppy white dudes or some shit. You know what I mean? But then you're like, oh, Prescott. I guess that makes it all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, which our friends, they're originally from here. They're from Endorphins Lost, which has the guitar player from my old band, Brain Scraper. And it's just we had a lot of friends there, and then they got some land out there, so they just kind of moved out there and started the band Ugly and did some things out there. So it was really great to see those guys again, and just again, that tour was so amazing. We all needed it so bad, and and it's been back and kind of like getting back to the swing of things around here. With shows, it's been crazy being a show booker with waves of COVID, things like that, planning out shows, people being afraid, bands getting sick and having to drop last minute. It's just been like, it's been a bit much, but it doesn't matter because all the shows that have been awesome have been going so well. Like you could just feel the energy in the air. Like everyone is so stoked, so like when I brought Exauchelon and like Maleficent, which are like indigenous black metal bands out of Los Angeles, I met those guys at the Gathering of the Eagle and the Condor, which was the festival that the Night of the Pale Moon threw in LA. And then so I was able to bring those guys up, and that show was absolutely amazing. Like, oh man, this is so great. We have got Kukuelamuku, which is, a Pacific Island metal band based out of Seattle, and we've got a lot of indigenous metalheads in this area. So just feeling that community and love when with again this uprising of indigenous metal, it's absolutely amazing. It makes me so stoked on the future because there's still so much.
Yeah, there's tons around here. Yeah.
Now it's brand new everything. This like the beauty of the pandemic is it kind of changed how everyone is thinking, what's important, what they actually want to spend time on. And music is a big part of that for a lot of people. So I'm really excited for the future. Like things are rough and there's lots of anxiety because of show cancellations, but it doesn't matter because there's so much good that will come of this. And there's so much it's like all these communities are having to be rebuilt and put back together. It's like a lot of the venues didn't survive, but now a lot of them have different names and are new owners, so it's just like, it's time to come back, but we got to do it better. We got to get rid of a lot of that dog eat dog, like competing against other bands, and just work as a community, like work as, especially within your local scene, support each other. If someone actually makes it, be proud of them, be stoked for them, don't get mad or jealous. It's just like, this is a small underground scene, it's like it's growing and it's getting more better and better, but it's like we all got to be there for each other, and we got to help lift each other up, and I think that a lot of people can kind of see and feel that after these last couple of years, because you never know how good something is until you have it taken away from you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's good message. I hope I just hope that all the bands, despite the type of music they play, can just work together and, yeah, like you said, support each other. And but yeah, I really appreciate you talking with me, and I don't want to keep it too long, but yeah, we really did cover a lot, and really appreciate you talking with me. And one thing I like to ask is is there any like bands that in your area, I think you mentioned a couple of them on your label, but any bands that you want to like tell people to check out?
Absolutely. There's a lot of really cool bands happening. I mean, one of them is one of my favorite local bands that it's not on the label right now is Rat King, who actually came from Arizona area and moved up here. Band going kind of with the brothers who kind of and then the drummer they found here is also from Mexico, which is awesome, because you gotta love your brown metal heads within your local scene a little bit more. And so I love Rat King. Check them out if you haven't seen them. Deconsecration is amazing death metal. We got Reburied is another amazing death metal band. A lot of people probably know them, but Cerebral Rot, amazing band. We got Fetid, Cystic, Noroth. Man, I feel like I'm going to leave a lot of people hanging. There's just so many really cool bands. Filth is Eternal. Feel like I'm drawing a blank on a couple. I was like, I should know every single band. I book them all the time at my venue,
No, it's all good.
But yeah, Vauna, however you want to pronounce, from Olympia. Those guys are fantastic. It's an all-female like black metal band. They're absolutely amazing. Yeah, but I mean, like I was saying, Kukulamuku, if you guys don't know them, check them out. But yeah, I mean, the Seattle scene is phenomenal. Like, and not just, metal. We've got cool everything, but especially the metal.
Yeah, awesome.
Like the black metal and the more progressive stuff, like we used to have Syndios, indigenous band, progressive black metal band from late 90s, early 2000s. I was just hanging out with those guys. They were my favorite. I was trying to re-release their album on my record, but we couldn't quite get the audio. And then Eddie's moving back to Mexico right now. He's got a pretty cool black metal band I think he's working on down there with the drummer of Incantation. He was in that band Blood Soak too as a kid. They've been getting like popular again right now while everyone's pretty hyped on the throwback metal that everyone's trying to discover right now from like the 90s, the death metal and stuff. But yeah, the Seattle metal scene, man, it's so amazing. It's what keeps me in this area that costs too much for me to live in.
Awesome.
But
again,
cool I plan on keeping this scene thriving and doing it as best as I can for a while. And again, I want to let everyone know, to feel free to reach out if you think you got something that's amazing. If you got something really cool and it, reach out to me. Find us at satanicroyaltyrecords.com. Or
Awesome.
Satanic Royalty Records.bandcamp.com.
Hell yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Michael, man. Really appreciate it. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no
Again, I really
problem.
appreciate you having me here.
No problem. Thank you.